back into things. Okay, so as you're ready, you can come into a comfortable sitting position, leaving out anything in the beginning that does not work for you. But if you'd like to, you can sway a little side to side. You can circle around the hips a bit. You can change the direction of circles. You can come back to swing a little side to side. And eventually you can just let yourself unwind into a place that feels balanced between the right and the left side here. And once you're in this place, you can exhale and tilt the hips under and see what that feels like. You can inhale and tilt the hips back. Just doing little pelvic tilts, noticing what it feels like for the hips to be tucked under versus tilt it back. If you want to go bigger like I am, you can. You don't have to go. And then eventually settling into a place where the hips are not tucked under, nor tilted that far back that you feel balanced between the right and the left side. Resting the hands someplace comfortable on the legs. Eyes can be soft or closed. And just turn inside to the flow of the breath, feeling the air on the nostrils and letting the breath flow through you. If you would like to, you could bring one hand to the heart, the other hand to your belly. And just as you settle into the flow of the breath here, you might notice your hands moving with your breath. So you might notice the hands moving away from each other on the inhales and coming back in towards a little bit on the exhales. As you feel ready, you can lengthen and deepen the breath, balancing out the inhales and the exhales. And with your exhales, noticing the earth, the floor underneath you. And on the exhales, let yourself settle down into the support of the earth underneath you. Let yourself feel held. Breathe. As you continue to settle into the flow of the breath, and feel the support of the earth underneath you on the exhales. On the inhales, feel that expansiveness from inside out. As the lungs inflate, feel the torso expand, feel the spine lifting up out of the hips, and cultivating an internal sense of fullness that on the exhales you keep a bit and let the skin settle back onto that internal sense of fullness, and also let yourself settle into the support of the earth. So on the inhales, cultivating a bit of stability from inside out. On the exhales, finding support both externally and internally. Breathe. And let your awareness rest in the flow of the breath. Throughout class, I invite you to maintain your connection to the breath. So if at any point you notice your thoughts are drifting or wandering, at that moment, bring the attention, the awareness back to the breath. I also invite you to be deeply connected to yourself. So give yourself some time here just to notice how you feel, physically, mentally, emotionally, honoring whatever that is, and letting that inform your practice. So feel free to adjust the postures, to do different variations, to insert different poses as you feel inclined to. Even if what I say sounds like a command, it's not, it's just shorthand. Even if I say a lot of words, feel free to adjust the postures, to do different variations, to insert different poses as you feel inclined to. All I ask of you is to try to stay connected to the flow of the breath and to move a bit with this connection. So breathe. If you'd like, you can bring the hands now together in front of the heart. We'll start class with the Om. If you'd like to join in, I'll exhale, inhale, and then Om. Exhaling. Inhale deeply. Take a deep full breath in. And then exhale, releasing your hands. Softly open the eyes. And then as you're ready, you can transition to all fours on the mat, making your way to your hands and knees. Just making sure the knees are far enough away from the hands that you can lengthen the spine. Hands about outer shoulder distance width apart. You do not have to do palms flat. If another position feels better for you, you can play around. But if your palms are flat, maybe lines of the wrist parallel with the front edge of the mat, maybe fingers spreading nice and wide apart, and maybe shifting the weight forward out of the wrist towards the front of the hands a little bit. As you feel ready, inhale and stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale and round the back and look at your navel. Inhale and arch the back, head and tailbone up to the sky. And just moving back and forth to the flow of the breath, connecting this movement to the rhythm of the breath. And noticing how you feel as you move, how your back feels, how your shoulders feel, how your neck feels, how your wrists feel, how your knees feel. But also notice what you're doing. Rounding and arching the back, shoulders moving on and off the back, head and hips tilting under and up, inner thigh muscles moving forward and back as you breathe. With your next inhale, go ahead and stretch the spine nice and long. With a nice long spine, feel the shoulders a little bit engaged on the back, feel the core gently engaging. And then from here, grabbing at the floor a bit with your finger pads here. Maybe start to circle the torso around on the ground. And you might start with small circles, but you might slowly start to move bigger. Just notice as you move the torso around, you're experimenting some with knee mobility, and you're also stretching out the wrists in some interesting ways. So after a few rounds of circling the torso in one direction, go ahead and changing directions, breathing here. And then when you feel ready, easing your way back into a child's pose. Feet together, knees a bit apart, hips towards your heels, head towards the ground. Your spine can stay more extended, or you can gently round the back. Breathing wherever feels good for you. Nice full deep breaths. And then as you're ready, inhale, ease your way forward onto your belly. Making a pillow for the head with your hands, gently rock your hips a little side to side here. Coming back into center with your hips. Feel the hips heavy on the ground, bounce between the right and the left side. Feel the breath flowing through you, maybe noticing the belly pressing into the floor with your inhales and softening back in towards the spine with your exhales. As you get ready to, start to anchor down to the hips, pressing down to them intentionally balanced out between the right and the left side. Kneecaps spinning to face the ground, extending back to the legs and the feet a little bit. And then if it works for you, stretch the arms forward out in front of you. Now, if arms stretching forward out in front of you straight does not work for you, then bend your elbows some and have a bend in the elbows. Your palms can either face down or turn in towards each other here. Keep anchoring down strongly through the hips, retracting the arm bones a bit into the shoulder socket here. And then with your arm bones a bit into the shoulder socket, anchoring down through both hips evenly. Inhale, lift the right leg and the left arm up. Exhale and lowering back down. And then inhale, left leg and right arm lift. Exhale and lower. Inhale, right leg and left arm. Exhale and lower. Inhale, left leg and right arm. Exhale and lower. Inhale, right leg, left arm, holding here, maybe stretching back to that right leg forward to the left hand. Breathe. And then exhale, lowering that side down, both hips staying nice and heavy on the ground. Inhale, left leg and right arm lifts up, keeping the left hip pressing down, maybe stretching back to that left leg forward to the right hand, breathing there. And then exhale, lower all the way back down. Rest your head on the hand, gently rock your hips a bit from side to side. Coming back into center with your hips. Press down to the hips, stretch long through the legs. Open your hands wider apart. And with your forearms on the ground, slide the elbows in close to the torso. Keep rooting down through the hips here. Keep your whole forearms on the ground. And then inhale, pressing down through the forearms, lifting up through the shoulders and the chest if that feels good for you. Exhale and lowering back down. Inhale and lift up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale and lift up, holding here for a moment. Feel the shoulders gently moving towards each other on the back. Feel the chest lengthening forward in between the shoulders. Feel the breath moving through you. And then from here, go ahead and lower back down. Keeping your arms here if this feels better for your shoulders, or if you want, you can stretch in the hands out forward in front of you again. And then pressing down through the hips, lift your feet up a little bit here, whether your arms are here or stretching forward. If your hands are stretching forward, you also might lift your hands up a little bit. And then swimming, so either just paddling the feet or paddling arms and feet, if that feels okay for you. Breathing here, nice full deep breaths. As you're here, if the arms are forward out in front of you, maybe trying to stretch out. So trying to stretch the feet back and stretching the arms forward. Breathe. Okay. And then exhale, just easing your way all the way back down. Rest your head on the hand. Gently rock their hips a little side to side. As you feel ready, coming back into center with your hips and making your way back into a child's pose. Breathe. With your next inhale, up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, arch the back head and tailbone up to the sky, so just one round of cat-cow. And then go ahead and come back to an extended spine. So we're gonna do a variation of cat-cow if you want to. Again, you can repeat the one we just did earlier in class, or if you want to from here, we're gonna start with the arch back. So we're gonna lift the head and tailbone up, and with your toes, your feet flex, you're gonna lift your feet up off the ground and move the feet towards the hips. And then exhale, with your toes curled under, you're gonna lower the feet down, maybe hover the knees just an inch or two off the ground, and go ahead and round the back here. And then as you inhale, you'll lower the knees back down, you'll lift your feet up off the ground, you'll arch your back if that works for you. And then exhale, with your toes curled under, you'll lower the feet back down, maybe hover the knees a few inches from the ground, and maybe round the back here. One more round in each direction. Inhale, lowering the knees down, lifting the feet up, arching the back, head and tailbone lift up. And then exhale, go ahead and lower the toes down, maybe hover your knees a little bit, maybe round the back. And then go ahead and lower the knees down and come back into a child's pose. Breathe. With your next inhale, ease your way forward onto your belly. Pillow for the head with your hands, gently rocking your hips a little side to side. And then we'll lean a bit more to the left side here, bending the right knee, sliding the right knee forward, so maybe the right knee comes approximately level with your hip. Feel free to be on your side more here, or if you'd like to, you can start to turn the hips towards the ground and do a Ardha Mandukasana, half of a frog pose variation. Breathe. Nice full deep breaths. And then as you're ready from here, you can stretch the left arm forward out in front of you, or really any position that's comfortable for your arm and shoulder, and start to roll back to the left side here, lining your body up, bending the right knee, spinning the right knee up towards the sky, bring your right foot into a tree pose, so the right foot's on the inner left leg, someplace comfortable. It might be lower down, it might be higher up. With your body in a relatively nice straight line here, if you want to, you can float the right hand up, breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then go ahead and lower the right hand down. Now, if this is a good hip stretch for you, you might want to stay here. If you want more of a hip stretch, you might step the right foot back behind the left leg. Press your right thigh back behind you so the right knee points up to the sky more, and then maybe even heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, that right foot further to the left. Breathing here. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then as you're ready, you can wiggle that right foot back in if you moved it to the side somewhere, and easing your way back onto your belly. Gently rock your hips a little side to side. As you're ready, go ahead and lean a little bit more to the right side, bending the left knee, bringing the left knee up, maybe even till it's level with your hips. Feel free to stay on your side here, or go ahead if you want to and let the hips turn towards the ground. Breathing here, wherever here is for you. Nice, full, deep breaths. And you're just trying to come into a place where you feel a nice stretch to the hip, but nothing too intense. as you're ready, go ahead stretching the right arm forward out in front of you. Easing your way all the way over onto the right side, left knee bent, left foot coming to the inner right leg, left knee spinning towards the sky, tree pose on your side, lining your body up in a nice straight line. And if you want to, engaging your core a bit here and lifting the left hand up and balancing on your side in a tree pose variation. Breathe. Okay, and then exhale, go ahead and lower the left hand down. Maybe slide that left foot back behind the right foot. Again, also feel free to stay in the tree pose. And maybe heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, that left foot further to the right, pressing the left thigh back so the left knee spins towards the skyward or sky east. Breathing wherever feels like a nice stretch for you. Nice full deep breaths. And then as you feel ready, go ahead and ease your way all the way back to your belly. Making a pillow for the head with your hands, gently rock your hips a bit from side to side here. Coming back into center with your hips from here, stretch the arms forward out in front of you. Again, if that works, if not, again, bend your elbows a little bit. Press down through your hips, knees facing the ground, stretch long through the legs. Retract the arm bones into the shoulder socket a little bit, lifting up maybe a bit through the chest here. If you want to, floating your legs up here, maybe hugging the legs in towards each other. And then if you'd like, maybe starting to float up through the arms. Only if that works for your shoulders. And really, you could feel free to stay much lower and just lengthen. But if you do want to lift up, you can lift up. Breathe, nice full deep breaths. And then exhale, lower all the way back down. Rest your head on the hand. Gently rock your hips a bit from side to side. Coming back into center with your hips again. Press down to the hips. Stretch long through the legs. Knees facing the ground. Bring the hands to either side of the chest, underneath your biceps or your elbows here. And then from here, again, really rooting down through the hips. Float your hands up with the shoulders moving towards each other on the back. And maybe curl up through the chest here. And again, your feet can stay on the ground, or if you want, you can lift the legs up or hug them in. Breathe, nice full deep breath, stretching back through the legs, stretching forward through the chest. And then keeping your shoulders in the chest where they are. Lower the hands down. Act like you're dragging your hands back to the chest, lengthening forward. Breathe. And then exhale, lower all the way back down. Rest your head on the hands. Relax through the legs. Gently rock your hips from side to side. As you feel ready, easing your way all the way back into a child's pose. Breathe. Okay. With your next inhale, coming up to all fours, hands and knees. Exhale, round the back and look at your navel. Inhale, nice long spine, stretch the right leg back behind you. Exhale, right knee to the nose, rounding the back, hugging in. Inhale, stretch the spine long, stretch the right leg back behind you. And then we're gonna exhale, we're gonna step the right foot level with your left knee, right leg relatively straightish, toes facing forward, as much as the sole of the foot coming down to the ground as works for you. And again, you might have to adjust exactly where foot is, and you might have to bend knee or turn toes out a little bit versus forward, but you can play with all of that. Okay, with a nice long spine here, if this is already a nice stretch through your hamstrings and your hips, feel free to stay here. But if you want to, you can act like you're doing a child's pose. Keep your hips relatively even with each other and stretch them back a little bit more. Breathe. And then as you're ready, if you did stretch back, go ahead and come back to shoulders over the wrist. Bend your right knee. With your right knee bent, start to heel toe that right foot forward towards your right hand and over to the left. You might need to move the right hand to the left a little bit. Coming into a low lunge. Also feel free to pat up the back knee if you want to here, or to slide that back knee back a little bit. Lengthen the spine out of the hips here once you feel set up, and gently moving the hips a bit from side to side. Breathe. Then coming back into center with your hips here. Heel to the right foot, just a bit more to the left. Bring your right hand to the right knee. As you feel ready, left hand can come up too. You might want to adjust things here, so always feel free to adjust and switch things up a bit. But hugging in from your feet to your hips, maybe letting the hips settle down and forward. As you press your hand on your thighs, maybe lifting your low ribs up away from your hips. And then if you want to, arms can come alongside by the ear. Anjaneyasana, breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then from here, if you want to, your right hand, you grab the left wrist, and you just lean a little bit over to the right. And then go ahead and come back upright, and lowering the hands back down, and step, slide, wiggle, scoot the right foot back off for us. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, around the back, look at your navel. As you inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Stretch the left leg back behind you. Exhale, left knee to the nose, rounding the back, hugging in. Inhale, stretch the spine long. Stretch the left leg back behind you. And then exhale, stepping the left foot forward, about level to your right knee, legs straightish, toes facing forwardish. Now again, these things with the sole of the foot down might not be exact, so your toes might be turning out a little bit more, turning forward a bit more. Doing what works for you. Try to level out your hips with each other. So if it feels like one hip is lifting way higher than the other, even out your hips. And then with your hips relatively even, if you want to intensify the stretch, you could shift them back like you're moving towards a child's pose. Breathing, nice full deep breath, and that will intensify the hips a little bit, the stretch, the sensation, and the hamstring. Breathe on the left side. And then as you're ready, shoulders back over wrists, bending the left knee, heel toe, that left foot forward towards your left hand. You might need to pad up back knee. You might need to move your hands a bit to the right. You might want to slide the right knee back a little bit. Back toes can be flexed or pointed, just as long as you feel nice and steady through that back leg. Lengthen the spine nice and long here, and maybe moving the hips a little side to side. Breathe. And then as you feel ready, come back into center with your hips, squaring the hips towards the earth. Heel toe, maybe that left foot even a bit more to the right. Left hand can come up to the knee when you feel ready. Right hand can come up too. Hugging in here, maybe adjusting where feet are. As you press down through the thigh, feel the low ribs lifting up, and maybe letting the hips settle down a bit more. And then if you want to, you can reach the arms alongside by the ears. Nice full deep breath. Also, again, if arm straight bothers you, then cactus is always a nice variation. If that feels better, breathe. Nice full deep breath. And then from here, go ahead, if you want to, left hand, right wrist, and leaning over to the left. Breathe. And then go ahead and come back up. Exhale, lower the hands back down, step the left foot back. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long. Exhale, arm bones in the shoulder socket, shoulder blades on the back, core engaged. Curl the toes under, lift the knees up, stretch the hips back, downward facing dog. Bending and straightening the legs, moving the hips a little side to side. And just notice how you feel. We've already done a lot today before even coming into this first downward facing dog. So you might already feel a bit different through the hamstrings in your hips than you usually feel here. As you feel ready, you look forward at the hands, bend the knees, walk your feet towards the hands or the hands towards the feet. Once all the weight's in your feet, you can bring the hands to the hips. A nice long spine. Come all the way up to standing. And then from here, go ahead and make your way to near the front of the mat. Lining your feet up with each other here, a comfortable distance width apart. Knees facing gently forward, second toes facing gently forward. Knees tracking towards second toes or thereabouts. And go ahead and shift the weight forward and back in your feet a little bit. Eventually coming to a place where the weight feels relatively balanced between the front and the back of your feet. Wiggle your toes. And then with your next inhale, go ahead and lift your toes up. Feel the muscles of the bottoms of the feet engaging some with the toes. Exhale, go ahead and release. Inhale, lift your toes up. Feel the arches lifting up some with the toes. Imagine your feet as a square, pressing down right behind the big toe, inner edge of the heel. right behind the baby toe, outer edge of the heel, all relatively evenly. And then pulling the front 2 points, behind the big toe and baby toe, towards the back 2 points, inner edge of the heel and outer edge of the heel, so you feel the arches lifting up and nice and steady and strong. Trying to keep the engagement through the arches, maybe spreading the toes nice and wide apart, and lowering the toes back down to the ground, pressing the toes into the earth. Feel the leg muscles hugging to the bone, but the knee joints a bit soft. Feel the muscles around the hips hugging in, including pelvic floor muscles lifting in and up. Feel the tops of the hips and back lifting in and up a little bit here. Feel the low ribs in front lifting in and up as well. Hands together in front of the heart, shoulders together on the back, head and neck stacked above the breast of the spine. Feel the breath flowing through you here. And then as you're ready, exhaling, anchoring from the hips down to the feet into the earth. With your next exhale, release the hands to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Exhale, lower the arms to the sides. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high. Right hand can grab left wrist. Exhaling over to the right a little bit. Inhale, up to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale, up to center. Exhale to the right. Inhale, up to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale, up to center. Exhale to the right. Inhale, up to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale, up to center. Exhale, release the hands to the side with your knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, bend your knees, act like you're sitting back in a chair with Utkatasana. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bending your knees with Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your thighs. Inhale, stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips here. Keep that extension to the spine, maybe sliding the hands down your shins. Maybe bring your hands to blocks or floor underneath your shoulders. So feel the thighs and the hips leaning back, feel the armpits and the chest stretching forward here, trying to come into spinal extension as much as comfortable for you here. And then maybe trying to straighten the legs a bit more here, pressing from the hips down to the feet, lifting the hips up as the legs straighten. Breathe. And again, the form might be a little bit rounded, but the action is you're lifting the spine out of the hips. And after a few breaths of trying to stretch the spine nice and long out of the hips, if that works for you, then you can go ahead and let the back gently round and fold in if that feels good for you. Maybe moving the hands closer to the feet if you're on the ground, but always feel free to keep your hands on the legs somewhere. Breathe. And then the rounded back feels okay for you. Go ahead and bend your knees. And then tucking your hips under and roll vertebrae by vertebrae up. If that's too much pressure for your back, and if you have any back stuff going on, that might be too much for it, then come up with an extended spine instead. Slowly straighten the legs here. Bring your hands to your hips, rooting from the hips down to the feet into the earth. And then from here, what we're just gonna do is we're gonna push our hips over to the left side, shifting the weight into that left foot, and then push our hips over to the right side, shifting the weight into the right foot. Push your hips to the left. Push your hips to the right, push your hips to the left, and if it works for you, holding the hips to the left, if that feels okay for your hips and everything, and stretching the left arm by the ear, and coming to a side body stretch with your hips intentionally off of center. Breathe. So sometimes when we do side body stretches, we try to keep the hips more centered. This time we're intentionally letting the hips come off center if that feels good for you. And then inhale, come back up to center, let the hips come back into center. And again, as you're ready, pushing your hips over to the right, intentionally, maybe lifting the right arm up and stretching that arm by the ear. Breathing here, nice full deep breaths. And then as you're ready, go ahead and come back up to center. Release the hands to the side. Press from the hips down to the feet into the earth. Inhale, arms come wide and reach up high to the sky. Act like you're grabbing almost a bar with your hand. What we're gonna do is we're gonna almost act like we're doing a pull-up. We're gonna bend the elbows and pull them down. But as you do that, maybe curl the chest up to the sky a little bit more. And then inhale, go ahead and stretch the arms back up here. You can keep the chest a little bit curled if you want to. Exhale again, like you're doing a pull-up. Bend the elbows, curling the chest a bit toward the sky, lifting the low back up out of the hips. And one more time, inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale with the shoulders on the back, bending your elbows, curling the chest up to the sky. And then this last time as you reach the arms up, just come back to neutral. And exhale, release the arms to the side. Soften your knees a little bit, shoulder roll, shoulders up and on the back. Shoulder rolls forward. And shoulders gently up and on the back, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Anchor from the hips down to the feet into the earth. With your next exhale, release the hands to the side, knees as wide apart as your feet. Inhale, bend your knees, act like you're sitting back in a chair, Utkatasana. Exhale, back up to standing. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees, lengthen the spine nice and long. Shift your weight to your right foot, hands to, and then step the left foot back. Right knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards second toe. If you want to go way back with that left foot, you could, wiggling it back. Back heel could be up or down. Press down to your feet, hug into your hips. Lengthen the spine out of your hips here. And then if it works for you, you can lower the left hand to the floor or to a block. Turn your chest to the right and maybe lift the right hand up to the sky. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. As you're ready with your next exhale, lower the right hand back down to your right leg. Bring your right elbow to your right knee. Turn your left toe so the left heel comes down. So if your left heel is lifted, turn it to face down. Line up your feet someplace you feel comfortable and steady, and then start to shift your weight into your feet from here. And then once the weight feels nice and steady in your feet, bring the left hand up to your hip. Lengthen the spine here, and then maybe start to turn hips, chest, head towards the sky here. Parsvakonasana, letting the hips open up. Breathe. Feel super free to stay here, or lifting the left hand towards the sky, or stretching the left arm alongside by the ear. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. And then as you're ready, left hand back to the hip. If you moved it, turn the hips back to face the ground. Left hand to the ground. Right hand can stay on the knee or it can come down too. And then as you're ready, pressing down to that right foot, slide, wiggle, scoot, step the left foot forward to meet the right. Inhale, slide your hands up the legs and lengthen the spine. Exhale, slide down and fold. Press down to the feet, nice long spine. Arms come wide, reach all the way up towards the sky. Exhale, hands together in front of the heart. Feel the breath moving through you. Anchor from the hips down to the feet into the earth. And then with your next exhale, release the hands to the side. Inhale, bend your knees, Utkatasana. Exhale, hands to your knees, lengthen the spine, shift your weight to your left foot, hands to, right foot goes back. Left knee on top of the ankle, tracking towards the second toe. Again, if you want to wiggle that back foot way back, you can. You don't have to. Back heel up or down. Press down to your feet, hug into your hips. Lengthen the spine here, and then maybe right hand to block or the floor. Turning your chest to the left towards the bent knee, and then maybe lifting that hand towards the sky, breathing here. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. Pulling both feet nice and steady on the ground, and leg muscles just drawing in towards your hips. And then as you're ready, lowering the left hand back to the left knee, and then left elbow to the left knee, turning the hips face back towards the ground, and lower, if it's lifted, the right heel down. And you might need to adjust where your feet are here to feel nice and steady. Left knee on top of the ankle, and start to shift the weight into your feet as you feel ready. Once you feel stable, you can lift the right hand up off the ground, lengthen the spine, and then start to spin hips and chest, and maybe gaze towards the sky. Parsvakonasana. Breathing here, maybe letting that left thigh settle down a bit if that feels good for you. If you want to, the right hand can lift up to the sky here. If you want to, right arm alongside by the ears. Breathe. Nice, full, deep, complete breaths. As you're ready, if you moved your right hand, bring it back to the hips, turning the hips to face the ground, lowering the right hand down, left hand might come down too, and easing your way back to all fours or downward facing dog, whichever is appropriate. Maybe bending and straightening the legs if you're a downward facing dog. Breathe. And then we're gonna make our way into a child's pose. So lowering the knees down, feet together, knees apart. Nice, full, deep breath. Okay, ease your way forward onto your belly. Making a pillow for the head with your hands, gently rock your hips a bit from side to side here. And then coming into center with your hips. Press down through the hips, stretch long through the legs, knees facing the ground. Arms forward out in front of you, maybe lifting up a little bit to the chest here, breathing. And again, if it works for you, lifting up through the legs, maybe lifting up through the arms. Nice full deep breath. Now maybe keeping that little bit of a lift through the chest. Bend your elbows by the sides, curling perhaps the shoulders on the back a bit more here. And then lower the hands down. Act like you're dragging your hands back, chest leaning forward. Keep stretching actively back through the legs. Lower the feet to the ground. If they're lifted, feel super free to stay here. Or if you want to, you can press down to the hands and inhale, lift up a little bit higher. Shoulders staying on the back. Exhale and lower all the way down. Inhale and maybe lifting up. Shoulders rolling a bit back and down. Exhale and lower all the way back down. Inhale and lifting up. And exhale and lowering down. Rest your head on the hands. Gently rock your hips a bit from side to side here. And then coming back into center with your hips from here. Bring the legs close together. Press down strongly to the hips. If you like to be propped up higher, you can always come to propped up on your elbows here. But feel free to stay low too. And then pressing down strongly to the hips, we're going to exhale and bend the left knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the left knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the left knee. Inhale and straighten. We're just going to move straight to the right side. So as you're ready, exhale and bend the right knee. Inhale and straighten the hips, staying pressing down nice and strongly. So trying not to let the low back muscles contract as you bend the right knee. Inhale and straighten. Exhale and bend the right knee. Inhale and straighten. So we're eventually going to open the knees wider apart. And you can go ahead and do that now. But if you want a bit of a challenge, trying to keep the knees closer together, press down to the hips. So your knees might not bend as much, but bending both knees, pressing down to the hips, inhale and straighten. So as you bend both knees, if you notice your hips start to pill up off the ground, then you've gone too far. Straighten, because we're trying to keep them rooted and stretch out the front of the legs. Exhale and bend both knees. Inhale and straighten. Go ahead and open your feet wider apart a little bit. Let your hips rock a little side to side. And then with your knees wider apart, if you haven't already moved them wider apart, spin to face the ground, press down to the hips and bend both knees here. And again, you might notice that's much easier if you try to keep the legs closer together. Bring the arms along the side, fingers pointing towards the toes, and then rooting down to the hips here. Inhale, lifting up to the shoulders and the chest. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale and lifting up. Exhale and lower back down. Inhale and lift up. Feel free to stay here. Feel free to float hands up. And if you want to grab for one or both feet and kick feet back, you can do all of those things. Breathing wherever you're at. Nice full deep breaths. And then as you're ready, exhale, go ahead, release, rest the head on the hands. Gently rock the hips a bit from side to side. And then as you feel ready, easing your way back into a child's pose. Breathe. Inhale up to all fours. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. Inhale, stretch the spine long, shift the right leg back behind you. Exhale, right foot forward towards your hands. If you need to grab the foot and slide, wiggle, scoot, go ahead and do that. If you want to pad up back knee, go ahead and do that. With your next inhale, walking your hands up to the right knee, again, adjusting as you need to, hugging in here. And then as you're ready, as you lift the spine up, maybe stretching your arms up to the sky here. And then exhale, maybe bending the elbows here and curling the chest a bit towards the sky. Breathing here, nice full deep breaths. And then inhale, unfurling the chest, stretching the arms back overhead. And then exhale, lowering the hands down. down. You might want to grab blocks again here, or you might want to bring both hands inside the right foot, whichever feels better for you. We're going to slide that left knee back, maybe wiggle the right foot forward, and slowly straighten the right leg, however much feels good for you. Pressing down to the right heel, you might pull the toes up. Hands approximately underneath your shoulders, so again, if you need to grab something to put underneath your hands, that's fine. And then feeling that outer right hip pulling back, lengthen the chest forward out of the hips. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then as you're ready, exhale, gently let the back round, folding in. And then go ahead and bend the right knee and step the right foot back. All fours. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, round the back, look at your navel. As you stretch the spine nice and long, stretch the left leg back behind you. And as you're ready, left foot forward towards your hand. So maybe grabbing that foot and sliding, wiggle, scooting, adjusting things, patting up knees. When you're ready, inhaling the hands out to the leg. Maybe be letting hips settle down and forward. Maybe low back lifts up a little bit. And then next inhale, if you want to, arms reaching up to the sky, lengthening the spine out of the hips. And if you want to, bending your elbows to the side, putting the shoulder blades on the back, and using the shoulders and curling the chest a bit towards the sky here. Breathe, nice full deep breaths. And then if you did come into a back bend, you're gonna come out of it, stretch the arms back up, and again, just lengthen the spine here, breathing here. And then as you're ready, lowering the hands back down towards the ground. And again, sometimes it's easier to have both hands inside that left foot, so feel free to do that variation. Sometimes it feels better, hands on either side. But you can wiggle or slide the back knee back. You can wiggle and scoot that front foot a little bit forward, just easing that front leg straight-ish. And straight-ish does not necessarily mean all the way straight. You're just finding a nice hamstring stretch. Being active to the legs, pulling that outer left hip back, and with your hands approximately underneath the shoulders, stretching your chest forward, breathing here, wherever here is for you. Nice, full, deep breaths. And then as you're ready, gently laying the back round if you want to, folding in. And then go ahead and bend that left knee and step that foot back, coming back into a child's pose. Breathe. Nice, full, deep breaths. Transitioning into sitting with the legs forward out in front of you, knees and toes pointing up to the sky, hands back behind you. Pressing down to the legs, untucking your hips, lift up to the low back, open to the chest, open to the throat, breathing here, this Dandasana variation. And then we're not gonna come onto regular Dandasana. We're not gonna move that far, but you're gonna back off of this extreme, like lift up to the chest. So your chest is lifting up a little bit, your head comes back a bit towards the neutral. You might walk your hands in a little bit, but again, not necessarily all the way forward. You're leaning back still here, lengthen the spine some here. And then go ahead and bend both knees. Flex your feet nice and strong. Leave feet about as wide apart as your mat. And from here, exhale the knees over to the right side. Inhale up to center. So sitting windshield wiper. Exhale knees to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale to the right. Inhale to center. Exhale to the left. Inhale to center. Exhale to the right. Holding your legs over on the right side. Lift the left hand up. And start to maybe fold a little bit over this right leg. If you want more of a hip stretch, you could slide the right foot a little bit further forward, coming into like a 90-90 position. Lengthen the spine out of the hips, and with this spine nice and long, so maybe walking your hands a little bit forward, perhaps folding a bit over that right knee, but you can also explore here. So with your legs relatively stationary, you can walk your hands around a bit and see what different positions or slightly different areas feel like in your body as you breathe. As you're ready, walk your hands back, coming back to a more upright position, and then flipping so both hands are back behind you again here. Maybe sliding that right foot towards the left knee again, but maybe then sliding the left knee so the left knee is pointing more straight forward out in front of you. Maybe sliding that left foot a little bit closer back towards your hip, not forcing anything. I don't want you to feel any pain in your knee or your hip, but then maybe leaning back a little bit here and maybe even tucking the left side of your hip under a bit and trying to get a little bit more of the stretch now through that left front of the thigh and the hip flexors. Breathe. And then as you're ready, leaning a bit towards the right side and coming back up to center. So making your way to center, both hands back behind you, feet flexed, knees pointing sky, feet nice and wide apart, and then we'll let the knees go to the left. And again, you could kind of move over to the left side. If you want to slide the left shin forward so it's more of a 90-90, you can. And with both hands now over on the left side, lengthen the spine out of the hips, and then maybe play with moving your hands around. So again, you don't have to be in any particular area here. You're just exploring a bit as you breathe. And this is kind of a pigeon variation. I always forget the name of this pose. It does have its own name, and we used to do it a lot more often. But it is a kind of a nice pigeonish place to be when you're exploring over this leg. Okay. And again, when you feel done with playing around with this left hip and external rotation, so the left hip is doing that external rotation and stretch, you can come back upright. You can start to slide the left foot maybe back towards the right knee, maybe right foot comes closer to your right hip, maybe right knee stretches forward, and then maybe leaning back a little bit, tucking the right side of your hip under a little bit. And again, this is now internal rotation and stretching the right leg. So being really cautious, internal rotation can be really interesting for knee joints. So you want to be careful and make sure you're not feeling any pain or really not too much sensation that's not even considered pain in your knee here. And then as you're ready, leaning back over to the left side a little bit and coming back up to center. Once you're in center and then sitting, now we'll bring the feet together with the knees open, nice and wide apart. Untuck your hips, sit up nice and tall. Baddha Konasana, breathing here. And then from here, go ahead and stretch the left leg forward out in front of you, hugging the right knee into the chest, sitting up nice and tall. And then from here, taking your left arm across the right leg, right hand back behind you, twisting to the right. Feel super free to stay here, hugging that right leg in with your left arm crossing over the leg, but also if you want to bring the left arm all the way to the other side of the leg, you can. Nice full deep breaths. Okay, with your next inhale, unwind. Bring both hands back behind you. Walk your right foot a little bit to the right. Again, leaning back, lengthening the spine, flexing that foot strongly, and this time holding your hips in place, just letting that right knee fall towards the left. And again, only as much as feels good for you. So right knee falls in, doing an internal rotation, if that feels okay, and just playing with what that feels like in your body. Okay, and then go ahead and lift that knee up and externally rotate. So now bring the right foot against the left leg and letting the knee open to the side. Bending the left knee enough that you can sit up nice and tall, grabbing someplace easy to grab on the left leg, lifting the low back up out of the hips, and keep the chest lifting up as maybe you walk your hands forward. So again, at first, lifting the chest up out of your away from the floor. Your leg can be bent or straight. Breathe. And then after a few breaths of the spinal extension or trying to lengthen the spine a bit in the forward fold, if you want to gently let it back around, if that feels good for you too, you can breathe in here. And then go ahead and come back up, lifting the right knee up, straightening the right leg, hugging the left knee in towards the chest, untucking your hips, sitting up nice and tall, right arm crossing over, left hand back behind you, twisting to the left. And again, feel free to stay here and actually maybe wrapping the arm around the leg and just hugging that leg in towards you. But if you'd like, you can cross the right arm all the way over. Breathe. And if you need to lean back a little bit, if it feels like your back is rounding, then maybe lean back a little bit and find a little bit of a length to the spine. And then as you're ready, go ahead, unwind here, both hands back behind you, again, lengthen the spine a bit here, walking the left foot over to the left, flexing that foot, and then seeing how it feels to maybe let that left knee fall towards the right without letting your hips move a whole lot here. So really trying to see internally rotate through the hip, but not letting the hips lift up or turn. That's what I should say, not doing a turn, but doing just that internal rotation, a little bit more isolated. And then from here, go ahead and lift that knee up and externally rotate. So left foot can come against the right leg, bending the right knee enough to sit up nice and tall, lifting the chest up, breathing here, and then keeping the chest lifting a little bit, walking your hands forward, easing your way forward. Right leg can stay bent or straightened. Nice full deep breath, trying to lift the chest up away from the ground for a while. And then if it feels good for you, gently laying the background and fold and breathe. As you feel ready, go ahead, come all the way back up, both legs forward out in front of you, knees and toes pointing up to the sky. Bend your knees enough so you can untuck your hips and sit up nice and tall here. Hands can be by the hips now on fingertips if that works for you. But then if it works for you, we're gonna go ahead and stretch your arms up to the sky. So stretch your arms up to the sky, sitting up nice and tall here. Keep the spine lifting and sitting up nice and tall. Bring the arms parallel to the ground. And then from here, engage your core, and your back's gonna round as you reach forward, but we're not gonna reach down so much, we are just gonna reach more forward. Reaching forward, the back might gently round, and you're just seeing how far forward you can reach. You can keep your knees bent, or you can play with straightening the legs. Breathing here, wherever it is for you, core engaged, and then go ahead and just lower the hands wherever it feels comfortable. Nice, full, deep breaths. As you feel ready, go ahead and come back upright, bending your knees, soles of your feet to the ground, moving your hips forward. Make sure there's plenty of mat back behind you, holding on underneath your thighs here. If it feels better to lift the soles of the feet off the ground, feel free to do that. And then when you're ready, inhale, lengthen the spine nice and long here. Exhale and round the back and look at your navel. Inhale and lengthen. Exhale and round. Inhale and lengthen, and if it works for you, releasing the hands from the legs and vertebrae by vertebrae all the way down, or coming to your back, however works for you. Once you're on the back, if you like, you can hug the knees into the chest, coming into a ball, gently rocking. And then either holding on to the legs or letting them go, you could draw circles on the ceiling with the knees in one direction, massaging out the hips and the low back a little bit. And then drawing circles with the ceiling, on the ceiling with the knees in the other direction. Okay. Coming back into center here with your knees bent, lower the feet to the ground, outer hip distance width apart, feel the feet and the knees facing forward as much as works for you. Coming to natural curves of the spine. Weight lower in the hips, balance between the right and the left side. Tops of the hips lifting up a little bit. You might be able to slide a hand underneath the top of your hips. Shoulders nice and heavy, balance between the right and the left side. Neck lifting up a little bit here. Back of your head with your chin in neutral or slightly lifted nice and heavy. Arms straight along the sides, palms face down, fingers pointing towards the toes. Inhale, you can shrug the shoulders up towards the ears a little bit. Exhale, you can wiggle the shoulders underneath you here. Lifting the spine in between the shoulders up. So bridge pose. Feel free to keep your hips on the ground, or if you want to, pressing down evenly through your feet. Inhale, stretch your knees and your hips forward and let your hips float up as you stretch forward. Exhale and lowering back down. Inhale, stretching the knees and the hips forward and floating up, only if that feels good for you. Exhale and lowering back down and trying to keep your knees stretching forward as you lift up. Inhale, stretching the knees and the hips forward, lifting up. Exhale and lower back down. We'll hold this last one if you want to. So inhale, stretching the knees and the hips forward, holding here. Pressing down evenly through the inner and outer edge of the feet. Press down through your hands. Maybe wiggle the shoulders underneath you a little bit more. Maybe lift the spine in between the shoulders up a bit more, lifting the chest up a bit more. And as you stretch your knees and your hips towards the front of the room, maybe stretching the chest back for the wall behind you. Breathe. And then exhale, go ahead and lower the hips all the way back down to the ground. Bring the hands to the tops of the thighs. Press the thighs away from you. Gently swaying the knees a bit from side to side. Breathe. And then after spending a little bit more time in this neutral spine after the back bend, if you want to, you can hug the knees into the chest and let your hips tuck under just a smidge here, and hugging in and gently rock from side to side here. Okay, so hold on to your left knee with both hands, hugging that left knee in towards you. And again, your hips might be tucked under a little bit here. Keep them tucked under a little bit if that works for you. Straighten the right leg towards the sky with your right foot flexed. And with your hips staying tucked under a little bit, engage your core and slowly lower the right leg straight towards the ground. But if your back starts to arch, your hips come untucked, stop. And you're gonna hover the foot a little bit off the ground, just stretching that foot forward, breathe. And then from here, intentionally shift the weight a little lower in your hips, so coming back to the natural curves of the spine, but moving carefully. And then maybe lower that right leg down towards the ground, straight, all the way down. Pressing the right leg into the ground with natural curves of the spine now, as you hug the left knee in towards your chest, breathing here. And then as you're ready from here, relax that right leg a little bit with the right leg on the ground. Open. Am I right? Yeah, I didn't mirror you. Open your left arm to the left, cross the right arm over the left knee, and then maybe lifting the left hip off the ground and maybe twisting towards the right. Breathe. Nice full deep breaths. I try to mirror class most of class, which is why if you're watching at home on the video, I'm saying the opposite side you're doing because I'm mirroring class in the studio, but right now I'm not. And then as you're ready, go ahead and unwind, coming back into center. Hugging both knees back into the chest, letting the hips tuck under a little bit, coming to a ball, gently rocking. And then with both hands holding onto that right knee, keeping your hips a little tucked under, come back to center, stretch the left leg straight towards the sky. Engage your core. With your core engaged and your hips tucked under maybe a little bit, lower the left leg closer to the ground. Hovering it off the ground, breathing here, nice full deep breaths. And again, right at the moment, your hips might be tucked under a little bit if that feels okay for you. And then we're gonna slowly and carefully untuck the hips by shifting the weight lower in the hips. Tops of the hips will lift up a little bit, but not a huge arch. Core is still engaged, and maybe lower the left leg all the way to the ground here. Now your knee might be a little bit bent. That's fine. If you need to bend the knee, the left knee, bend the left knee. Nice full deep breaths for a minute, anchoring down through that left side. And then after a few breaths of anchoring down to that left side, relax it. Open the right arm to the right, cross the left arm outside the right leg. With your left shoulder staying on the ground, start to lift the hip up. Or right shoulder staying on the ground, start to lift the right hip up and taking your right knee across the left leg. Breathe. Nice full deep breaths. And then as you feel ready, go ahead and unwind back into center. Hug the knees back into the chest as you feel ready, coming into a ball, gently rocking. Feel free to stay in a ball or open the knees wider apart, lengthening through the spine. Maybe point the knees down towards the ground on either side of you. Maybe flipping your feet up to the sky, holding onto the back of the knees, the lower legs, or your feet as you rock from side to side. Breathe. Happy baby pose variations. And then unwinding into center, full body stretch. Stretch the arms up above the head, legs along the ground. Lengthen the back of your hips towards your feet. And final relaxation. So really any position of the spine is relatively neutral and supported is fine. If you like Shavasana, you could come into Shavasana with the arms along the sides in airplane position, palms facing up, legs opening wider apart than the hips, and back of your hips leaning towards your feet. But again, any position that the spine is relatively neutral and feels supported. So feel free to bend the knees, have the feet on the ground, feet together, knees apart, on your side, sitting, whatever is comfortable for you. Once you find the position that works in your body for this moment, for today, let your eyes be soft or closed and feel the breath flowing through you. And just notice where your body is touching the ground. And on your exhales, just let yourself release into the support. Let your bones feel heavy. Let your skin feel soft. And whenever you're as relaxed as you're going to get, let go of the conscious awareness of your breath and just let yourself be here. Back to your breath. Feel the breath flowing through you. As you feel ready, coming into small movements, wiggling fingers and toes, circling ankles and wrists, stretching arms and legs. When you feel ready, you can give yourself a squeeze if you like, hugging the knees into the chest, or you can just gently bend the knees if you prefer. And then as you're ready, you can ease your way if you want to onto your side. Traditionally, you'd roll to the right, but you might prefer left, and that's fine. Wherever you are, feel the earth underneath you, feel the breath flowing through you. And then just as you feel ready, you can ease your way into a comfortable sitting position, keeping that connection to the floor and the breath as you come up to sitting. We will finish with an Om. If you'd like to join in, hands together in front of the heart. Exhaling. Inhale deeply.